Hey guys, Will Bass here, talking a little bit about my research today, or at least my research topic. Uh, so, first of all, I want to apologize. I misread the directions uh, about when to post, so apologies for the late post, Dr. Bergman. Uh, so, I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. So, I only have 15 minutes. Uh, So again, like our last post, like this research was conceived by talking anecdotally between myself and an athletic trainer about uh, anthro- anthropometric measures that could also define athleticism, sheerly based off of what we know about physiology. So go and get into it. Like the purpose of this research is to determine if there's a difference in power outputs uh, and explosive movements. Those being the vertical jumps. I've got three different vertical jumps built in, and a 10 meter or 10 yard sprint. Uh, Between individuals with lower and greater cross sectional gastrocnemius size, and if there's a difference in power outputs in those same explosive movements between individuals with longer and shorter Achilles tendons in both male and female subjects from the age of 18 to 23. Like like most research that's done via colleges, especially with huge athletic departments like Lenore Ryan has, it's easy to recruit athletes uh, between the ages of 18 and 23. You don't have to go through the IRB process for under 18, nor the consent process for under 18 athletes, which is a huge time saver from what I've been told. So I'll go over the basic kind of premise of why I think this will end up with a. I'll go ahead and give you my hypothesis. There's going to be I feel like there's going to be a difference in the people with, or the athletes with longer Achilles are also going to have the highest vertical jumps and the faster sprint times. And also the smaller gastrocnemius cross sections will have the same. Uh, it's based on more so fiber typing for the gastrocnemius cross size. Fast twitch fibers are smaller. You also are not carrying around as much weight as you are with slow twitch fibers. So you're effectively getting a increase in power to weight ratio just simply by having the right physiology. Uh, Same thing with Achilles length. If you think of a rubber band, which is essentially what a tendon is outside of all the specialty stuff that tendons have in them, the elastic properties themselves. Uh, think of having a longer rubber band, especially if it's got a lot of tension to it. Uh, the snap that you kind of get, or the rebound you kind of get from it coming back. So that's kind of like my hypothesis is that both the longer Achilles and the larger or the smaller gastrocnemius size are going to have greater, more so markers of athleticism, for lack of a better word, right now. Uh, the research questions I have listed below, it's a lot of the same things, just with the specific jumps built into it. So I'm going to be tracking individual jumps, not necessarily conglomerating them all into one. Uh, so the majority of the background that I did was in the fiber typing and the physiology of tendons and muscle. So that was kind of the way that I sold it as being worthwhile research. Also, it would be a fantastic tool for coaches who could also use this as part of their eye test. uh, when trying to determine if an athlete is going to be more athletic, or if one athlete is going to be more athletic than the other, or have the markers of athleticism that they are desiring. Uh, in my background, I covered why that's kind of important, especially for collegiate coaches. High school coaches, you really don't have a say in who you recruit, but collegiate coaches, all they have to go on is AAU, uh, watching game film, which isn't always telling because most of the kids have never been, at least from my experience, most of the kids that I've dealt with haven't really been in a proven strength and conditioning program, especially not basketball. That's the sport that I mainly deal with. Uh, so it would be an easy thing to add to the eye test, add to measuring wingspan and height, something that an athlete can put onto their recruiting page, which makes it an easy, all right, so there's a correlation between this and this with these markers. He should be able to, for lack of a better word, jump out of the gym if he's got a longer Achilles and a smaller gastroc. So that's kind of the goal of this, at least, is to get this started and heading in the right direction. So going over the methodology, I have it going on at Lenoir-Rhyne. If I can actually get the IRB approval and get a couple of weeks to come down for my current position in Maryland. So I would have to get in touch with all of the coaches via script. Basically tell them about the benefits, how it'll actually affect their athletes. It's mostly testing that they will probably have done with Chad or Jenna. So I don't think there will be any pushback because there's no real risk except for like orthopedic injury, but there will also be a warm up, and they're also collegiate athletes, so they should be able to jump maximally with a given warm up. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little strep. I'm at the tail end of it. But yeah, the basic gist is they would come in, you would get all of the height, weight. I would love to do body fat measurements, but I don't know if that would be practical. And then we would measure the Achilles length up until the soleus, from the soleus to the calcaneus. You measure the tibia, so you have a percentage of the tibia, which is the length of the. You basically have a percentage of the tibia which the Achilles covers. For the gastroc, I'm torn between, once it's said and done and actually get approved for this, it's not going to affect the IRB stuff, but I would love to play around with calipers and see if I could just do the width of the gastroc instead of having to try to measure the gastroc itself, because it's really hard to get the gastroc and the solar, or gastroc without the soleus. So I'm playing around with the athletic trainers at UMBC, trying to figure out what's a good way to actually measure that. At this point in time, I'm going to go with the method of just measuring the whole lower leg, and I'm probably going to add in before the final paper, measuring the body fat site for the calf muscle and taking that into consideration as well. So after we got all of those measurements done, they would go through, do a warm up, and then we would start the data collections. Have a have a vertical jump station to where they got through every athlete just kind of went through and did all three of their jumps, and then we would have a sprint station where they would go through and get 3 attempts at a sprint after completing the sprint warm up. Just because you don't want any hamstring injuries out of a study. In which the fastest and the highest of the recorded jump/sprints would be their actual values. And then we would try to break them down. I think just a simple t-test would be easier to do with just 2 sets of data to try to compare. I have to figure out a more detailed way to break up subjects into groups, find out where the cutoff is for gastroc size and Achilles length, find out who between the male to male is what is considered longer, what is considered shorter, because that hasn't been established as a norm yet. Same thing with the gastroc size. So that would be something that I would have to figure out whenever we got the data collected. And then I think a normal t-test would actually give us the right data, but I would obviously get with whoever the faculty advisor would be, probably Dr. Cook for this one, just to make sure that was the right t-test for me. It could be a repeated measures ANOVA. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I believe that is basically the gist of my research. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks. Have a good night, you guys.